video. So in today's video, you're just going to look at how to use server actions, and you're just going to compare them with API routes. And you will see that server actions, they tremendously reduce the amount of code you write. If, for instance, you look at the amount of code you need with a server action, you only need about like 2 or 3 lines of code to create. In fact, for creating like a new project, you see that we need like only 1 line of code, while in the API you write all this code here. So this is the code you write to create a, for instance, a project. And then in comparison with a server action, you write only 1 line of code. Okay, and this is not only this. If you check project with the API route, this is the code you have to write to make it work. Okay, but then with the action, you only just need to write only 1 line of code like this. Okay, so this is the amount of code you need to write for the server action, and this is the result. You can see you can create a new project. Okay, you can just create a new project. And we'll see like you the easy way or the best way to use server actions, where you can create we're just going to be using to create these simple projects. Okay, so you can see we have this project 10 here. Okay, so just going to look at how to use the Zod. So we are using Zod plus React Hook form to do validations. So if you just see here, this form is validated using Zod and React Hook form. Then we are using server actions to mutate the database. We are saving the projects into database using server actions, and went ahead and did a comparison. Hello, welcome. So in this video, I'm just going to show you how to use server actions and what is going to be the best way to use them with the API routes, which circumstances you're supposed to use server actions, and how you're going to use them with React Hook forms plus Zod. So most people I'm seeing they're using server actions alone, and the way most people are explaining them is somehow not feasible. So in this video, I'm just going to show you, I think, the best way how to use server actions and the instances you need to use server actions. So I'm just going to start by using the repo used in the previous video. So if you have not watched this video where we used Zod plus React Hook form, this video was good. So you can just go and first watch this video on how to use Zod and React Hook form. Now, there is a possibility of you using React Hook form without a need of using Zod. Okay, it's very much possible you can use it. But the fact that as you're just going to add on your skills, something like Zod is really necessary, and more especially if you're going to be working with other people on multiple projects. As I've always been saying, make sure if there is a way of improving your skill or improving what you have been doing every day, at least do it. So if you add Zod is one tool that most people use in their project, so adding Zod really will be helping you to really add on your skills. So I argue start using Zod and React Hook form, and now in a combination with server action. So the first thing you will do is just go to this repo. I'm just going to leave this link to this repo in the description. Just is going to be a starting point we are going to use. Simply clone this and just run it locally. You will have something like this. Okay, you will have a different title here. Okay, which was for this this other video. This you will have this one in the one that in this video. form validation with React hook form and Zod blah blah blah. So you can change that. I just want to just use it as a starting point. Okay, so I just change this, and we have also this register form. Okay, so instead of having register form, instead we're just going to have some things here. So we'll just do a full stack example, so that just going to use a full stack example so that you guys just to know how to integrate this at full stack. I've been seeing most people also using this in the form of a to-do app. I don't think that one brings it out. We need to see at least at a level we've always been doing our stuff, so that we see how this can be really added in the system. So the first thing I'm just going to do is I think I'm just going to create this repo and first put it in production. Now the first pro tip I'm just going to give you guys, when you start your Next.js 13 or Next.js 14 project, please before you add any backend, first deploy it. I repeat it. Most people are having issues in production. Avoid having a lot of code before you go to production. Okay, just simply write simple code. You can even write only title and simply deploy that project right away. That is the best way, and that's the good way to do it. So I'm just going to deploy this one. So what I'm just going to do is creating a new repo for this project. So I'm just going to go here on my GitHub. So let me just go on GitHub. So since I want you guys to have this as the starting point, I'm not going to push this one to production, so that you remain using this. So I'm just going to go here and just going to go here and create a new repo. Okay, so I'm just going to go and create a new repository. And by the way, this is the steps you're supposed to use. If you already have a repo and you're going to clone it, or you have cloned someone's repo. So I'm just going to say server actions or server actions. So I'm just going to create this as a public repo, and let's go ahead and set up this very quickly. Now you see, if you just come and say git remote add origin, already this project I cloned it on some other project, so it has already some origin. Okay, and I guess if right now I try to add this origin, they must give me an error that it already have some origin. Let's try it and see. If I try to add this, now the error they give you, the remote origin already exists. Okay, so you're not supposed to add the origin. Instead, you're supposed to actually update this one. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this. I think it is git remote set URL, okay, origin, just like this, and then let's enter the new one just like that. So this command git remote set URL origin, it updates existing origin to the new one. So now I have this, so I can just say git add, and you can just say git commit, and then git push, just like this. Okay, so you can just like push, and now we'll be pushing to this new repo, I guess. And then as that's pushed, I'm just going to quickly go to Versailles. And as I've said, before you add any things like backend API routes, before you complicate anything in your project, simply deploy it. Okay, so here we haven't added much. Okay, we haven't added much. This is the code we have in the previous, so this one should not give us many errors, or I don't know what to give us. Let me just go to my account, and I'm just going to simply add this project here to deploy it. And I'm just going to always tell you that should be the first thing you should do. Just when you create your project, before adding any backend or any routes and many things, just simply deploy your project and have it in production, so that every small change you make, you can simply go ahead and see what has happened. So just simply quickly deploy. We even don't have any environmental variables or anything, so this should be somehow easy to actually deploy and configure. Okay, so it is going ahead and it is deploying. So as it is deploying, we're just going to do some, maybe just wait it for a second, because maybe it has some errors, I don't know. Okay, and most times the project is most likely to succeed if you have not added many things. If you have just created your home page, the project probably will succeed in production. But when you start adding Prisma, you're adding this, adding that, most likely it is not going to succeed. So right now, you see, we have no problem. The project has deployed. Okay, the project has deployed. This is what we needed. So if I just go right now, I have this here, okay, in production. Now let's just go ahead now, update this or try to change this. So I'll just use this to create a project, like sort of like a list of project, a crude functionality of this, so that we see how would use how would do this in terms of really production grade. So I'm just going to change, instead here I'm just going to show some cards. So I'm just going to go on the page, instead of showing the form, I'm just going to go ahead and show some cards, like sort of like project list. I'm just going to go to Flowbyte, and I will just grab this this card. You can just go ahead and search cards. Let's see which card. So I'm just going to use this card here. Okay, just copy this. I'm just going to come here, and I'm just going to go ahead and remove this div for this form, just like that. I'm just going to create a grid cores. Okay, let's just say cores 4, and this may be, at first I just say cores maybe 1, then log we can actually say grid cores maybe 4, and then on md let's say grid cores maybe 2. I think that is enough, and then just go ahead and add this. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go ahead and change the class to class name. So I'm just going to change whatever I have class, I change it to class name, just like that. Replace all the instances. I'm just going to change this link to link, and of course next link. Okay, just like that. So you can have so many cards like these ones. So I'm just going to create a project card. So wherever there is this let me just go ahead and cut this. In fact, first copy, Control C, and let me just go ahead in components. Let's create project card, .tsx, rfc. Okay, and then inside here, I'm just going to paste this. Okay, and let me just go, of course, import this link, and let's go to page, and let's go ahead and add our project card. Did we call it project card? Yeah, I think we call this project card, just like this. Okay, so you can just go ahead and duplicate this a number of times, and let's see it here, how this one looks. Okay, not there. Do we have it? Okay, so we have it here. So you can see I have now 1, 2, 3, 4. You can just go ahead and add a gap. So just add a gap of 4. Okay, so, and I'm just going to have go ahead and maybe give a title. Okay, my projects. Okay, just like that. We can just change this to my project. So this can be your projects whatsoever. You have this, you have that, you have this and that. So you have this information. So what we want to do is want to add these ones from a database. Okay. So the first thing I'm just going to do is I'm just going to add Prisma. So that would be the easiest thing. I think let's first work on the UI. So instead, I'm just going to go here, add a new folder, maybe call it admin. Okay, maybe let's create a dashboard. And of course, in dashboard, we're just going to have, for instance, projects, where we're going to be doing projects. And then inside these projects is where you're just going to have the page.tsx, rfc. Okay, so here you're just going to have a title and a form. So here I can just have h2, which says create a project, just like that. And here you're going to have a form for creating a project. Okay, just like that. So instead, we just use we're just going to use some of these things in this form. Okay, so I'm just going to simply Control A, and then in this one I will just explain. I'm just going to have, for instance, project form.tsx, and then in this one paste this. So the first thing is, let's change this to project form. Okay, so let's change some fields here. So for instance, for the project here, I think we have a title here. So just say create a project, or create a new project. Okay, and then we'll have maybe the first label is the project title. So just have a title, and let's say change this one to title, and let's go here and register it as title. And by the way, so you realize I'm starting from this video we did previously, the one for, but to take you up to speed, if you're going to use if you're going to use React Hook Form and Zod, you're supposed to install 3 dependencies.
If you are planning to hire a salesperson for your business, here's how you can.
So you're supposed to install 3 dependencies. Let me just first show you. So you install the you install React hook forms, you install Zod, and then you're supposed to install in this at hook form resolvers. So you're supposed to install these three dependencies. Of course, you can also install icons roasted React. So we have Zod, we have React hook form. So you can say npm install Zod, React hook form, then at hook resolvers. These three packages are the ones you need. Of course, you already have a TypeScript project. These three are the ones you need. Okay, so we look at how you use them. So the first thing is to have your form, and of course import. I think it's good that let me just do this. Let me just do this. We just simply remove most of these. I remain with one for simplicity. Okay, and also I'm just going to remove this. Okay, let's remove all these so that we somehow start afresh, so that if you're just starting, you know how to start this. Okay, so I'll remove even this register stuff. Okay, so we still have errors. This here. Okay, just like that. We have two errors, which are these ones right now. Okay, so basically just going to use this project form, add it here in create a project, simply add the form here. Since we already have the title, I'm just going to simply add this project here, and let me just import it. Okay, so if I just go to dashboard projects, let's just do that. I'm just going to say stroke dashboard and then projects. Okay, okay, so we have this this form. We're supposed to control it. I don't know what happened. Okay, let's just copy this. You can just go ahead and put it in a div. Where are we putting it? Here in projects. So this, we can just say class name. So I can just give this one a shadow, and then give it max width of maybe 3xl mx. This one's supposed to be max width 3xl, so give mx auto. Okay, just see that. Okay, so and let's go ahead, give some padding of maybe 4, and let's also have margin y of maybe 6. Okay, so we have here this create a project. We have a title, so just add also a description, and this one we can just make this md. So just go ahead here on the project form, let's add one more label. So we can first have this one as title, and you can just go ahead, change the name to title. Then here you say title, and let's duplicate this this label, just like this, and let's make now this label description. So you can just come here and we say description, okay, and you could change this to text area. Okay, you can change this to text area. You can just say text area. Okay, I'm just going to copy this, so bring it here, remove these two. I'm just going to remove this and I put text area. Let's change HTML to HTML4. HTML4. Let's call this one description, and this one let's call it class name. Okay, other things, so here where there are rows, change this one into 4, just like this. Change this one to class name. Okay, I think that's it. Save. Let's go and view here. So yeah, so we have now create a new project, and you can pass in the title. Let me change the placeholder for this to be project name. Okay, so we have a simple form here which takes in a title and a description. Let's also change this one to description. This label, we can just see project description. Okay, as simple as that. So we have a title and the project description. So when you create, supposed to be create project, so just here is create project. So when you create this project, it should just redirect us on the home page, whereby, so after you have created, let me duplicate this. So after you have created, it should redirect us to the home page where we have these projects. Okay, so just going to do a simple CRUD. We might not just do all the CRUD operations. The whole point in this video is to show you how to use actions, server actions, and how to use them in a way that it supports the production grade, because some of these hooks they brought, I don't think they're so much useful really. Like, they are, of course they are good in some instances, and other instances you are going to see that they are still need to be improved and worked upon. Okay, so the easy way to use is this. So first of all, let's first do two things. So the first thing is to first add your React hook form, and then secondary is to add, of course, Zod, and then thirdly is why you can use your server action, or you could use API routes. So this is why server action. So you can use one of the two, or you can either use API route or you can use server action. Okay, so any of those ones you need, you can use one. So let's start with adding our React hook form. So we start saying const, and then we can just get from the register function handle submit, and then we can also get the reset function, we can get the reset function, and then we can just go ahead and extract the form state. We can just say form state, and then from it we get errors, and then we're just going to say this is equal to use form. Okay, just going to say use form from React Hook Forms, as simple as this. Okay, so now we could just go ahead and register these stuff. So we can just go to the title. Let's register this. So you simply say dash dash register, and we can just register this as a title. Okay, and let's go ahead and also register the project. So just come here, let's register this, register this as a description, as simple as that. So I have these two here. Create new project. I have a title. Okay, and I've registered these two. So quickly we can add here a handle. So for instance, we could just say on submit, we could just have our function. So you say normally this is going to be async function, or just quit for now, just quit function. Okay, and from submit, I don't know, you can just quit anything. Okay, and of course how this one is going to work is here on the form we can just say on submit is equal handle submit, not handle submit, but handle there is handle submit from, and then this one we can just say we pass in the handle submit, just like that. So of course with only this we already have our data, and we can also console.log data. Now the data we are having is right now not known. Okay, so it is good we create the type for this. So I can just come here in the types, and I can create right now the project. So can just say, we can just say for instance type export type type project. Okay, I'm just going to create it as a type export type project, and then I can just come here and I say equals the project is going to have a title, okay, as a string. Is going also to have the description, okay, as a string, and you can also add a slug. Okay, you can also add a slug as a string. Now something like this. Okay, you can just go ahead and create something like this. So we're exporting type project. I can just come and I use it here. So on this, I can just simply just say it is of type project, and you can import the type just like this, and on top here I'm just going to come and I say type. Okay, so you can just see this is a type, just like that. Okay, so we are now good. So if right now I go ahead, there is this handle submit void argument type where it's not assignable to parameter type. So we can just validate. So you just add also zod at the same time. So we could just come here and plug in zod. So the first thing is let me just also remember how we did this. So we use zod for handling the validation rules. Okay, we use zod for having the validation rules. So you can just simply go ahead and I think we created schemas. So we have a folder here for schemas, and then in this schema we have this schema here. So we define, zod helps us to define a schema, and then from this schema we can just use it for validation. I talked more about zod in the previous video. Me personally, I've not used so much zod, and I'm starting to use it in all my projects so that I add it to be something I'll be using all the time. Okay, so let's just go ahead and create another one, another schema here. So export const project schema. So just say project schema, just like that, and you're just going to initialize it as a zod object. So zod dot object, and then inside this object you're just going to go ahead and pass in the validation rules. Okay, so for instance we can just say title. So what are we going to validate on this title? So it can be z dot, okay, so the first one can be z dot string, and then you give your validation rules. They just copy like these three validation rules. So you can just say z dot, and then you can go ahead and put your validation. For instance, it should be a string, and you can put here title is required. Title is required, and then the minimum you can just say project title. Project title must be at least 3 characters. So you can just leave at this one. You can also go ahead and put a comma and go to the next. Okay, so like this we can just say description. So description is going to be so this z, and then we can also add the first one is string, so you can say it should be a string, and we can just say here description is required, and minimum, maybe this one we don't want any minimum. You can add any description, so I'm just going to leave like that. So after creating my schema, that is the first thing. In your schemas, create a folder for schemas, create your schema. The way I've done this pass title and z.string. This is to create a validation for the string, that the title should be a string, and you give it, like for instance we can give it minimum. In the previous video I showed you all the rules you can pass. There are so many rules that you can pass. Okay, but for now let's just pass these simple ones. I'm just going to go back to my form. So you're supposed to pass this schema inside here. Okay, so first of all we can first give this one the type of data. In this we can just say this is the type project, just like this, and then I can just go inside here and I say, I think it is called zod resolver, the key. Is it, oh, it's just like resolver. I think it's just resolver, and you can just say it is zod resolver. So just get this zod resolver from React hook forms, and then inside you pass in this project. So we call it project schema, just like this. Okay, so you can pass in this is how you join the hook React hook form with zod. You just print pass in the resolver, then you say zod resolver, and then you pass in the schema, which we have defined in the schemas. Now we can start passing in the errors. So we can just say, for instance, under the input here, and we can just say, just in case we have title dot errors. Okay, if we have title dot errors, we can just go ahead and maybe have a p tag which says, I think it is title dot errors dot message. Cannot find title. I think it's supposed to be errors, not title dot errors. Supposed to be errors dot title, and even this one is supposed to be errors dot title dot message dot title dot message. Okay, something like this. And I'm just going to give this one a class name of text, maybe red, maybe 500, and text same, just like this. So let's just first go ahead and see if this one works. So we just have our project here. Okay, let's see if we don't have any errors. Okay, so we can create. So far nothing. Okay, so now you see project title must be at least 3 characters, so the schema is working. I'm just going to go here, give it some maybe margin top of 2. Okay, so we have the errors here, so just go ahead and put it also on the project. So I'm just going to copy this message, and just below the text area I'm just going to put this. So it is errors dot description. So the one you used here, actually just say this is description. So the name you registered here is the name you use. So you can just say errors dot description, and here you can also just put error dot description dot message description dot message, just like this. Okay, yeah, so let's go and see if the for this one also works. So I just refresh one more time, and let's go ahead and click on create. So we have this. I think this one is supposed to be error dot description. So just hoping that let's first go to the schema. So we have this one which are having message. I'm not sure if you're supposed to say required error for this case, because we have this message and this error. I think if we just only have I'm not sure what is on this object. What do we have? We have message, only that. We don't have anything else, like, because if we put message, this does not sound like as an error. Let's make sure that we have this registered very well. Okay, so here I'm just going to put this manually. I can just say description is required. I don't know, you suppose like let me first see this one if it works. Let's refresh. Okay, okay, so definitely this one is not description errors dot description. Seems like I'm having some. What is that? So let me just see in my schema. So we have description. So how do we get this, the required error? We have message and then required error. I'm not sure why is this having some. So if we just add this as the errors, so here the stuff is there. Okay, you can see here you have errors those description, but then if I put a dot, I have ref, root, and type. There is no way I have like okay, so if you just put as a message, then in the schema, let's see if I add a message. I don't know, how do you capture this default this default one? Guys, I'm not so sure of how to capture that. Just see here, description must be 3 characters. So if we just add the message just like that, I think this one now will work. But then how do we capture the default message, the one of required error? That one you can just Google it, guys. Right now, just focus on server actions. So if you just create, you have this the messages are showing up. I don't know how you bring the default message, this one, this required error. Do you say dot required error? Really, like, doesn't sound something you can do. If you just say like required, this probably does not exist. Yeah, you can see TypeScript. This it does not exist on the type. And what the heck is these other things like type? There is type and property something. Oh, okay. So right now, just use the message for now. Okay. So now we have our data. So just go ahead and say console.log data. So you can just say console.log data, and let's go. Of course, make sure that this is a use client. So let's go onto this and inspect and make sure that we are getting the name and description. I'm just going to fake fill here and create. Let's check the console. We have the title and the description. Right. Now you could go ahead and create a slug out of that. We're not going to look into the details of a slug. We're not going to use slug. For now, let's keep it as simple as the title and the description. And we are using Zod plus React hook form, which is nice. So where do we plug in our actions? So under normal circumstances, after you have done the validation of the form and you have the data like this, now what you do with the data is up to you here. Now we can either plug in our API route, or we can just go ahead and add in our server action. Okay, so of course we haven't added Prisma, so I'm just going to quickly start adding Prisma. So what I can tell you, before you add Prisma, it's good that at this point you go ahead and deploy the changes that you have made. Okay, so you're just going to see this in all our projects. I will be deploying right away. And so here we say git add, and you can just go git commit. Okay, and you can see added Zod and React hook form, and you can just go and say git push, just like that. So you can just like push these changes, and this is going to help you to know if there are some things that you have messed up, and or if you have errors so far. Okay, don't allow to have so many changes before doing the deployment. Okay, so as it is deploying, I'm just going to go ahead and I will just go ahead and make some install Prisma very quickly. Okay, so that we're just going to add some simple database. So I'm just going to say npx Prisma. Okay, let's first install Prisma first. Npm install Prisma, and I think you can also install at Prisma client. I don't know if this is how you're supposed to install it. Install Prisma and Prisma client. What else? I think those are the only dependencies you need. So install Prisma and Prisma client. Now you can just be checking if this has gone through. So you can see we have this one working as well. So just keep checking your project. Make sure you don't have any errors. So far so good. We have all these dashboard projects. Okay, and all these are working perfectly. You can just check. We just like in production, everything is working the way we expect it to. You see that? So we are good. So now we are adding the backend. The first thing to add is Prisma and Prisma client. Okay, and now you just wait for a second for it to do. Okay, so Prisma has finished. Now we can just go ahead and initialize Prisma. So install Prisma and Prisma client, as simple as that. So next, just going to say npx Prisma init, and we can initialize this with, so you can just see data source provider is going to be MongoDB, just like this. So you can just initialize it with a provider, which is going to be MongoDB. This one is going to go ahead and initialize our project with MongoDB. Okay. Okay, so the Prisma has been initiated and everything has been done. So you see they have created the .env for us. Okay, so one thing that I just want to tell you guys, just create one MongoDB project and keep on using that one. You simply change the database name. So instead of every time you create a project, you go to MongoDB to change, create, blah, blah. Simply have only one DB URL that you're going to be using in all your projects. Simply change here the name of the database. So for instance, let me just add my DB database URL. I have it here. So I'm just going to add my database URL, and just going to simply change the project. So here I'm just going to change this, and I'm just going to put a new database. So you can just say change this to server actions. So it will create a DB called server actions. Okay, so this is the only thing you can just be changing. Change the DBs instead of just going create a new URL, blah blah, all the time. Just get only one working project and simply change this. You don't need to go to MongoDB again. Okay, like genuinely, I don't know the last time I opened MongoDB. I simply create new projects and move on. So after doing this, put your database URL here, and let's just go on. So the first thing, I'm just going to open Prisma, and let's create like one model, which is going to be project. Okay, so we start with the word, I think, model. So model is the word model capital what? So you can just like define a model like this, and let's start like it's going to have ID, and the ID is going to be string, and the second one is add ID, and then it has also add, I think, default, and default is auto, and then it also have at map, and here just going to see underscore ID, and definitely the last one is at db dot object ID. That is how you define the MongoDB ID. I tried so much, guys, to cram this now. Like, I've been writing this all the time, checking in the documentation, but right now I've just written it. So now title, so add title to string. It's not supposed to be a dot, guys. Just add title as a string, and this also add description. Okay, description is also a string, just like that. So I've finished. This is my model. You can just go ahead and go to documentation and check. If you want to check from the documentation, you can open Prisma. I'm not going to open Prisma, but you can open Prisma, check the documentation. But at least I'll show you all the things you can create. You go here. We have created a model. I'm just going to go ahead and push this. Okay, so I'm just going to say npx prisma db push, npx prisma db push. That's the command you need to push all your changes to your database. Okay, so after doing that, I'm just going to go ahead and do one more thing, creating a Prisma instance. Allow this. Okay, so you can see Prisma client has been generated. So we have to create now a Prisma client instance we are going to use in our project to do the CRUD functionalities. So inside the Prisma here, I'm just going to create a new file called db.ts. Okay, you can create it any area. You can create we have been creating utils, so you can create utils and create it there, but right now I'm just going to put it in the Prisma. So the first thing I'm just going to do is to declare so I'm just going to come here and say declare. So here we're just going to create a global Prisma client that we will use in our project. Okay, so I'm just going to say declare global. So we are creating a global variable. So inside this global variable, I'm just going to say, you could just say late or var. I don't know why they use var, but just late, I think late. So you can just say late Prisma. So you're defining Prisma as a global, and it's going to have an instance of Prisma client. Prisma client. It's supposed to get this from Prisma client. I'm seeing a lot of clients trying to import this. It's supposed to be Prisma client, not extension, just Prisma client. Okay, and this can be also undefined like this. So this is creating a global Prisma instance. Okay, so this one creates a global Prisma instance, and then we can use this if it exists. So you can just say export const, and you're going to say export const Prisma client. I think it's supposed to be Prisma client is equal to, so this is going to be equal to the global Prisma, so global dot this, and here you just access, I think, to Prisma. So or so if it already exists, we can use that, or we could just say new new Prisma client, just like this. Okay, and then we're just going to say if, let me just say, why is this one, just name it var. I don't know if that is the problem. I think here, yeah, I think this one has to be var, guys, not late. It is supposed to be var. So I'm just going to say if it is in production, so if process dot env dot node environment is not equal to production, so if the node environment is not equal to production, okay, then global this dot Prisma is equal to Prisma client. Okay, is equal to Prisma client, and the Prisma client is this one we just created. So here we first check if the Prisma client exists globally, then we use the one that is existing. If it doesn't, we simply create a new one, and then we are like, if we are not in production, that's like here in development, that's why we are writing this. This can help us in development to avoid multiple instances, but in production they handle this automatically. So we need to handle this on the level of the development. Okay, just like this, done. So we have exported Prisma client. We can start using it globally. So now that we have our Prisma client, let's start handling. So if we just go back to our project form, if we are going to do an API route, what we had to do at this point, we could just go to app. Okay, I would go to app, create API, and inside this API I can just go ahead and create, for instance, projects. Okay, projects, and then inside this route.ts. okay, and we could just come here and I say, I think also export in this. You could just say export. You can just say export default, or you could just say export async function like post, and then you have to say this is, you get a request, which is I think a request, like a request, and then come here and you could just say a try catch block, try catch. Okay, just for simplicity, we could just say return next response. Okay, you know how this one goes, blah blah. Next response status, and you could just also go and have some things. I think for simplicity, let me just say here console.log error for now, and then here I'm just going to say const, and we could just go ahead and destructure the title and the description from await is equal await request dot json. So we could just go and get this from here, and we could just go ahead and say we can just go ahead and then say we can const new new project. So just say new project is equal to new project is equal to, so you could just call the Prisma client, okay, dot, and then of course we could just access the project, and then we could just call the create method, and of course we go ahead and pass in the data, and that is the title and then the description, just like this. Okay, create. Okay, so you could just go ahead and do this, and of course after the new project has been created, we can just next response. We don't need to stringify this, but we can just say return next response dot, was it like dot json? Do I still remember how we used to do this? And we can just say new project, as simple as this. So this is the API route that we could create to handle the post. Okay, and then this is one thing you have to do. Then you have to go to the form and send this data. So at least what you could do here using the API route, okay, you could just say here, you say try catch, so you have to do a try catch, and then here just going to say const response is equal to await. That's why this I was saying it has to be async function, await, and then you have to await fetch. Was it fetch? So then here you can just pass in the API URL. You have to do HTTP. You know how this goes, HTTP localhost 3000, just something like this, 3000, and then you have to go to API stroke projects, and then there we could just go ahead and pass in the options, for instance method, post, and then also the headers. You pass in the headers and the body just like that, and when this is successful, so for instance if raise, you can just say if raise dot okay, then of course you can just go here and alert whatever you want to do. You can just do raise dot data, whatever you want to do. Okay, here you could redirect. Okay, for instance, you can just go ahead and, for instance, router. So you can also create here a router. So const router is equal to use router, and this is from Next navigation. And then of course down here you could just go ahead and say router dot push, and you just push to the home page where we have the projects. So here of course if there is error, let's say console.log error. So this is the code you have to write to be able to push, and let's check if this one works. Now we could just also put some loading indicator, and we simply just come here and say const. Now there is a way you can use the form state using server action to add the loading state, but I still think it is really a lot of hard work compared to this one. State loading is equal to use state. Okay, and they say here false, and let's use this. Okay, so we can just use this to show the buttons. So want to show another button on loading, so I'm just going to say, so if loading is true, we just need to show some button, and then if it is false, we need to show also another button. So one thing that you want to see in this one, you can just add an icon. So for instance, we can add a loader icon from Rusted. Just like that, and this one just going to give it some class name, and we want this one just simply animate. I just give it this animate spin. Let's give it some MR of 2, as simple as that. Of course you can just go ahead and add this text, and then we can make this flex. Okay, you can just like add like this, and this type you're supposed to say disabled. So this, we're just going to say disabled. We don't want people to click this. Okay, as simple as that. So we have to, and this one just going to say creating, please wait. So you can just say something like creating, please wait, something like that. Now even that, so you can just do something like this. Okay, and let's just go and control this. So at first set loading to true, so set loading to true, and then when everything is done, you can just say you can just go ahead and say set loading to false. Okay, so if now I just go back here, okay, so we can go ahead and create a project this time, and so let's just go ahead and create. I think we need to refresh, and by the way, avoid the one which is live. Let's go back to locally. Just go and refresh. Okay, so now if I just go ahead now, try the validation is working. Let's try say project 1, title, and let's say project one description, something like this. Create. Okay, so creating, please wait. We can see we have our data here. This is being sent to our API endpoint, and seems we have some problem. Localhost project blah blah, and that is the one of the problems you first actually face with using API. You have to be very careful, more especially when it comes to these endpoint, the way you put them. So I think this, I've made a mistake, I don't know where. Let's see, it is API projects. Have I made any mistake? Let me just, and by the way, this is, you're supposed to go, and also if there is any errors, please, you're supposed to so set loading to false, otherwise it will just keep on doing that loading the way it is doing. So let me refresh, and let me get the, I don't know where I have messed up. Let me try to get it right. HTTP localhost 3000. I thought this is the one I had. I don't know why it is HTTP API projects. Let's try one more time. Okay, let's try one more time. I'm just going to give this one project 1, and this one project 1 description. Okay, just create. Let's just wait and see. Again, what do you mean not found? Let me first look at the possible errors. There anything I've missed out? I don't know. For some reason, this is not being seen. I see. What is the problem? Come on. Let's see. Okay,